Hi friends, I'm Olga Koelsch and welcome back to my studio. Recently I hit 1000 of subscribers and I'm so thankful for you guys for such a great support you are giving to me here. It's amazing. And I love to read your comments. I love to go through your comments. And one of my subscribers, Elaine, asked me to show how I paint vegetables. And I prepared this video for you to show how actually I'm painting vegetables. It's a bit different from painting flowers, and I hope you really like it. So let's first paint just one cherry tomato. I'm taking permanent red, or any red will work, and I will be painting just in the shades of this permanent red. For the start I will need to make it very loose, very transparent. So cherry. Cherry has a rounded shape and it has a spot of the light. So I'm filling in all the rounded shape and leave untouched a piece of paper on the top left corner, because I imagine that the sun shines from this point. I will paint real sunshine, which will help not to forget. So I'm filling in with very diluted red color our cherry, and I leave this spot of the light right here. While the paper is still wet, I begin to build up the volume, and I build it up with the darker shades of red, which I apply to this half of the bottom half of the round shape, and I'm not touching this area. I try to keep it a little bit wide because it has a reflection. For example, if you put a cherry tree, just a second, I'm prepared. I have a cherry tree. Oh, cherry tomato. Cherry tomato. So you see this white spot. I have a window a little bit behind me, so it's here. And once I put it on white paper, it gets, it's probably difficult to see from the camera, but don't hesitate to get your own cherry tomato. It has a white area on this side. So that's important that we are not covering that area around. And if you see that your watercolor gets into it, dry your brush, clean your brush, dry your brush, and go around and get rid of some color, some medium. I will keep my cherry tomato here and I keep adding colored layers in this area when it is still wet. And there is some point where the greenery grows, and it goes inside. It's a bit around here, so it will be also a dark point, but not as dark as this. This part should be the darkest one. So don't hesitate to add more and more and more layers. What I would recommend you here, it's very tempting to add some black or some brown color to make it darker. Don't do that. Just don't do that. Somehow it will reduce this nice fresh feeling of a fresh juicy vegetable. If you like to paint in dusty colors, it's fine, but for the beginning, just for the beginning, I would not recommend you to add brown shades, I would just recommend you to stick with one color. What else we could do in this stage? I would like to add more white areas here. I could do it just with clean and dry brush. I blot out some colors. And for example, if I look at my cherry, I see white spot here, white spot here. So I trying to emulate these white areas, maybe play around and add something in between, but don't do too much. We need to wait until this cherry tree dries, and then we will create the greenery around. For green color, I will take just permanent green. I have, it's a deep green color. Emerald green is also good. Phthalo green together with olive green. That's all the colors you could meet in real vegetables. And to make it a little bit softer, I'm mixing it with the red, and you see we get this pleasant green. So let's paint the greenery. The spot where it starts to grow, it's just here. I will switch to a smaller brush, and I prepare a little bit more bold mixture. I don't want it to be too watery, so I want it to be very bold. And let's have a look at the model. So it has this green thing, and which connects to the main branch, and just some greenery around. Greenery around is always fun to paint. It's more like painting leaves. Start from the top, press on the belly, and bring everything back to them, to this point where it all connects. I like to add some artistic touches around here. And in principle, yes, our tomato is ready. Don't overdo it, don't overthink it. It's not an exact botanical illustration. What maybe could be done is to blot a little bit of green shade just for the variety, like this. And now we have very nice juicy tomato, cherry tomato. Another thing we could paint is cherry tomatoes on the branch, and let's do that. So oops, we have not very clean water here, so I imagine that it will be a view from the top. I use very diluted red color. I leave untouched white area on this corner. It's a little bit shifted to the middle. I want to shift it to the top left corner, around here. The third one or second one will be just tomato, will be next. White area untouched, maybe even two white areas just untouched. You could soften later on these edges, but right now don't do that. We do not have time because it's crucial for us to paint while the paper is still wet. I want to paint these tomatoes over meeting each other, so I will show you how to divide one from another. White areas. A little bit again, I was a little bit wrong here. I want to shift the white area to the top like this, and we have still very wet paper. I know that it's our top view, so this area would be very dark and this area would be very dark. So what I'm doing right now, I keep add medium, dark medium to the areas of shades, and I let them flow. I let them flow around. And you think the sun shines from here, so this part should be lighter, but not, because this tomato is in the shade of these two guys, so here will be very dark part. And of course on the bottom. And it's kind of important to look at the reference in this way when we paint vegetables, because it's all about correct shapes and shades around. So it's kind of important to follow this light scheme. I wash my brush, I dry it, and I soften the edges of our light spots. First of all, to reduce them. Second, to make them more diverse, more interesting. The more sharp the edges of white spots are, the more glossy feeling it gives. For example, if we will be painting later on, I think we will be painting Christmas trees, Christmas decoration, then these white areas should be very, very, very sharp. I would like to add some orange colors. A little bit, just a little bit. And I would like to lighten a little bit the area underneath of this shade, because as I explained, it reflects the white area to which tomatoes are lying on. Usually it's on the white plate. Let's do not make it too complicated. Let's imagine white plate, not blue plate, etc. So that's why it reflects a little bit. This area should be slightly lighter, and that's how we create this volume. I suggest we will let it dry and add green leaves. So tomatoes are dried a little bit and I'm painting the greenery, and here comes the trick, because it will be overlapping this green on the reds. So I first paint in lighter green, olive green. I'm painting the branch. For example, like this. I'm just mapping it, so it would not, it's not our final result. It's a little bit still wet here, that's okay. So this olive green, and now we will need nicely dark green color. I'm mixing it with the help of Phtalo green. phthalo green with sepia, which is dark brown, and that's how we get it, this bold green. And the consistency also should be relatively bold. First of all, I'm adding some shades to the brush. Just go along. Just go along. So this is the place where it connects with tomato. Maybe I need to dry it a little bit, but it's difficult to wait. And I'm painting this greenery right on the top of the tomato and press on the belly of the brush. I keep it cool. From the top view, it looks like a stars, but always try to add some curves and some variety around, some different directions for this. Also nice to add some different shades of green, for example olive green, but olive green will work only if we paint on the white paper. On the dark red, it's unfortunately not that fun. And again, not overdo it. This area might look not very juicy, not very fresh. What we could do about that is to take a piece of clean paper towel, blot the area around, remove all this, and decorate with beautiful green leaves. So simple as that. I always try to convince you to show you that some mistakes in watercolor painting, it's not the end of the world, especially if we paint in this nice loose technique, which gives us a lot of room for different things to do. Now let's paint carrots. For carrots I'm taking permanent orange. Unfortunately I do not have any carrots right here in my kitchen, but everybody knows how carrots looks like. Permanent orange and the same red as we used for tomatoes. It's already pretty juicy. Carrots is really fun to paint. I have a little bit watery color on my brush, so in principle ready, but of course we will play around a little bit. What I would like to do is to keep some areas white, because in principle all vegetables, they have glossy nice texture, and they always make these light reflections. It's very important to show the volume, so with my brush I just blot out some color from the middle, and I'm creating some texture with some small dots around, just like this. I want to paint another one next to it, maybe a little bit underneath. Same principle, from the top, middle, remove some medium from the middle to create the volume. And now it's very important to divide these two carrots. So I'm taking permanent orange to create this shade here, and I go along the edges. While paper is still dry, I add some texture, some very carrotish dots place around. Always nice when you mix two colors, permanent orange, red. It makes it juicy. I wash my brush. I want to soften a little bit some of these areas. So what do you think? Shall we paint third one? Yes, let's paint the third one, why not? Maybe just at the very, very, very bottom. So we need to really divide it lovely with very dark red and let it work by itself. When something is in the shade, no need to go too much into details, because in the shade we could hardly see details. Something like this. With a clean and dry brush, I blot out some areas to create the texture. So it's a little bit the other way around as we did before. And now the fun part, of course, the greenery. The greenery should be fresh, nice, lovely, and they painted just very loose, very abstract, I would say. Just with wiggling moves of the brush. If you're wondering about the color, that's olive green. You could mix yellow and green to get this shade. I like it. It has a very fresh, juicy feeling. So in principle, the greenery is ready. Maybe soften a little bit some edges, and I would like to add some phthalo green into the shades, just in some places. It's phthalo green. It mixes very lovely. First of all, it creates some variety. And this is how we painted our carrots. Of course, it's lovely as a final touch to add these tips of carrots. Yes, I think this detail really adds. And this one a little bit lost. Here I could just add some shades and textures on the top and soften with a clean and dry brush. Principle, this is it. Last thing, I would like to paint Elaine. Actually, it was Elaine who asked me somewhere in comments to show how to paint vegetables, and she also asked about beets. So we are creating some purple for this. I will take quinacridone purple. Any purple actually is work, and you see I'm just mixing it on the top of the red, which makes it very natural. So let's paint the beet. First of all the vegetables, it's all about round shapes. And the main point you have to keep in mind, it always has a white light area. And as in watercolor we do not have white color, we have to keep the white area with not touching the paper. So that's our future beet. While paper is still wet, I keep adding colors and layers around. I'm not touching this white area. And I think in layers, so I paint one layer. Now I'm painting another layer. The paper is still wet. That allows us to go more and more and more and more, to add more and more colors. But again, try not to overdo it. And it's time to add some nice texture. First of all, we will paint this bottom part is the darkest one. It's the darkest one. Let's paint it very dark, and let's paint this nose, this root, with some wiggling moves and getting from big to very tiny, and make some nice curve, something round. And some dark shades, but only if your paper is still dry. So that's how we get the main bulb. Now I wash my brush, I dry my brush, I soften a little bit the edges, which I here and there I do not like. Here I left this lighter area, which creates a feeling of rounded shape. And now I create this specific bead lines, textures on the surface. I'm using purple color, and I'm not painting this texture too horizontal. I still move a little bit on the rounded shape to make to add some variety. It's nice to take softer colors, lighter colors, and as a almost final touch, I wash my brush, I dry my brush, and I blot out some areas in the darker part. Just a few, but it creates very nice contrast and very nice variety. It looks like we used a lot of different colors, which we didn't. But the point is that it looks very artistic. I see that this area is a little bit too sharp, so I soften it a little bit. And to mask it, I add some of texture on the top, so nobody will think that here was something wrong in this area. So fun part, greenery. Greenery of the beet, it has main vine, very purple color. That's what I'm painting right now. It's the main vines of the leaves. And after that comes greenery. In diluted green color, olive green, and phthalo green. It's principle all we had here on the palette. It's very curvy, it has a lot of folders, the greenery of beet. So that's, I'm going with some wiggle moves, and I like how it mixes with this purple area and between itself. Just very playful. I use just different greens. Oh, that was too bright. Let's a little bit cover, hide it. So with I would like to add purple. It's a little bit dissolved already. I'd like to recover it. Very gentle, and some vines in the leaves, but just a little bit, not to distract the attention from our beet. I wash my brush, I dry my brush, and here and there I blot out some medium to create the volume and create some shades. Very gentle, careful with the paper. And our beet is ready as well. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed the process. I hope you immediately went to the kitchen and check out for some nice vegetables to paint. And I'm looking forward for your feedback, and please leave me some comments what you would like to paint next. Subscribe my channel and see you next time. Bye bye.